At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Ja.
And I am Gabriel Carter. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the session of Focus on Liberia on the Marketplace, where we talk everything business, finance, and economics. I am your co-host today. I am being joined with by Jimmy Eastman. Jimmy, again, I want to say thank you for joining us today. You've been consistent joining us for the last two weeks. But this is not your first or second time here, so thank you for joining us as we go through this. You want to say anything before we jump in?
Well, the topic is interesting. You know, we're seeing our Liberia. Everybody wants Liberia to grow, and develop. So if we're not focusing on the key things to help us grow and develop, then how we plan to do it. So this is a good topic. You know?
Yeah. No, thank you. And again, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you are, as we like to say, take your time, share the show, bring your comments, as I always like to say, bring your perspective, and questions that you may have. For those of you who don't know, maybe I think this was probably done on other platform, I hope. But this report was actually put out, I think, about 2 or 3 weeks ago by the United States State Department on Liberia about the investment climate in Liberia. It is deep, it is lengthy, and we may not be able to go through everything, but we, from an economic standpoint or business, or because this is an investment climate and we always talk everything business and economics here, we want to look at it from that lens. It is very segmented in terms of how detailed it is. So we're not going too deep into it, but we want to look at it from a overall sentiment in terms of what it is. What do you think this report is? How should the government of Liberia look at it? And just highlight some of the key things that are in there and some of the challenges in there as well, because they call out a lot of them. And so we want to look at it from that perspective as well. In addition to that, we also want to look at I think it's an MOU, memorandum of understanding between the government of Liberia and I think it's GOL Carbon LLC from the Emirati that was just signed for the carbon credit scheme. So we want to talk about that as well. That I think the government is given 1 million hectares of land for that, prospectively, if that goes into effect for that contract, and that will be spent over 30 years. So we want to look at it from that perspective as well. The reason why I added that topic there to talk about it, for those of you who don't know me, I'm very passionate about climate change as well, in addition to everything business and finance. I sit on the Mind Bank's climate change committee as a subject matter expert. So we help transition companies to look at way to implement climate change impact into the bottom line as well. So there are a lot of key information that I bring to that as well. So I want us to look at that. There's a lot of resources out there, and I think those are some of the things the government librarian can look at as well. So without further ado, I think let's jump into that. So we put a little, as I said, slide together. Hopefully it will help us navigate through that and answer some of the questions that we have. So bear with us here for 1 minute. Uh, Let me pick out the first question. So, so the first question that we want to look at is, what is the overall sentiment of the U.S. State Department climate report? So, meaning that why do, like, every time, and this is not something I have to tell you. Every time you read something, the first question should be, why did this person put this out? What do they want me to understand from it? What angle, from which angle are they putting out this report? So for us, as Liberian, I think that's the way we need to look at it. Yes, we look at it. There are challenges in it. There are, what I call upside in that report as well. But we need to look at it as to, from what angle is the US putting out this, and how do we need to understand that, because it will better from that. If we understand that perspective, it's just like a chess. You understand the move that your opponent is making, it will help you make your counter move as well. So this is what we want to do. We want to look at it from their perspective, but also what can we glean from it? So without further ado, on va aller.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay. So in their report, the overall, um, you know, the overview of this is that GDP has declined. I mean, GDP per capita has declined from 700 to 676. Not too much, um, there, but it remained. I think currently right now is at 630. It's declined even further. Um, we were growing as a country, but that growth, as you all know, was impacted by the impact of the COVID. And for most countries around the world, even on the continent as well, in Africa, they adopted some initiative to help them, you know, reboot after after COVID. I think we had something similar where we had distribution of rice. So whether that took effect to any extent, that is yet to be seen. But the fact that the current GDP per capita is at 630, that tells you that, you know. So they also talk about the low human capital development in our country. We're not doing much in terms of investing in humans, I mean, people that, will continue to, you know, innovate in different areas of the country, whether it's in private sector, in government, to continue on what we call that perpetuity to growth within the country. We're not doing a lot of that, preparing our future generation. They talk about bad roads, lack of reliable internet access, and pervasive, and that's the word they use. These are not my words. I copied directly from that report. Pervasive government corruption. Uh, Most Liberian lack access to reliable electricity. There's low public trust in our banking sector, and because of that, most of the cash is being held outside of the banking sector. So that is, you know, that's the overview on there. Um, so Jimmy, with
Mhm.
that being said, I there's a lot to be said about this report, but with that level of introduction, what is your overall, uh, you know, sentiment about the report?
Well, the the report shows that the Liberia has a lot of potential.
Hmm.
We and this is something that we know. We know we have resources.
Hmm.
God has blessed us with abundance of resources. We have rain. We have fertile land.
Hmm.
But we have to ask ourselves, why, if we have these things, why are we not producing?
Yeah.
You know? So the problem is not with the resources, is
Yeah.
putting it to use.
Yeah.
And I think the report also talks about one of the hindrances, one
Uh-huh.
of the things that are holding us back. And that is how the resources are used, you know, um, because you can have the resources, but if only a few people benefiting from it, you know,
Mhm.
that's why we will not um, realize all the gains we can gain,
Yeah,
you know. And the other thing is maybe we don't have the know-how,
that's a good point.
you know, to put
Yeah,
some of these things to better use.
yeah,
And the last one they mentioned, it requires some finance sometimes,
yeah.
and that is hard to come by. So those things we have to focus on if we're going to move the needle.
Yeah. So that's exactly, that's a good perspective. I didn't, as I said, I didn't look at it that way. And this is why I like to have interaction with people, because the way you understand something, somebody else might look at it from a different angle. There's a lot, like you said, there's a lot of things that they cover in there. So that's right now, that is what you're seeing right now. That is the that's the overview of what was highlighted in there. So we want to go through this report and what we gleaned from it, the little we were able to glean from it. So they also talk about, hold on, let me get rid of this question here so you guys can see the rest of the, I think we highlighted, voila. Uh, right. So they also talk about, the government, responding to those, especially the 2 years we have of the COVID impact, right? The government has some responses, right? One of it was, you know, as I said earlier, the most country around the world implemented some, policy initiatives to help them reboot after the pandemic. In our case, we initiated the printing of 48 billion Liberian dollars, right? That is still being injected into the economy, and that injection will actually end next year, right? Uh, the commercial banks and the Central Bank of Liberia, they're now pushing for adaptation of mobile money. And the reason is that most of the money in cash is held outside of the banking sector. So they're trying, I think what they're trying to do is to bring that cash into the system so the banks can be able to put it to better use, if you will. That's a whole different thing. Um, and also, they're adopting what we call the National Electronic Payment System. With their push for mobile money, they're adopting the system, which will now make it easy for most people to, you know, use mobile money and have it widely used, as we do have in Kenya and most of the East African country. So
Mhm.
that's, from a monetary standpoint or a policy response standpoint, that's what the government is doing. And I think that is, you can commend them on that. What now the question becomes, I think you said something very important earlier. Whether we do have the know-how, whether that is going to work, whether these things are working, that is yet to be determined. But hey, at least they have a response in place to counter this measure. Um, and also, I want us to look at this one too. There are upside, right? There are upsides to some of the challenges that are happening within the country that the U.S. State Department highlighted. They talk about the endowment of abundance of natural resources. So we're endowed with a lot of resources, natural resources, most of which we have in concession agreements. They talk about the investment, some major investment from those concessionaires. So that means those countries, companies, private companies that are, you know, that we have concession with, some of them are doing investment in the country. There's, a large amount of land that can be used for agricultural businesses and agribusinesses. And we have a lot of rain that, it rains a lot in Liberia, which is needed to grow uh, produce. We have a great fishery industry. They talk about the challenges within that industry as well, because the government has challenges scaling that as well. And also preferential access to the US market via the AGOA and something that I'm very favorable. I like very much is to have the commercial courts to do dispute. You know, you don't want all the court cases going to one court, but a court specifically for commercial dispute that can expedite business transaction dispute within the country. So I think that is. So what are your thoughts on this? Before I bring up the
When
next
I
question.
think about, especially the fishing industry,
Yeah,
once upon a time we were exporting fish.
were we?
Yes, Mesurado group of companies.
Hmm.
It was the Tauber family, Steve Tauber. He,
Maserati. Okay.
yeah, Mesurado group of companies. They were exporting fish all around the world,
Wow.
and in those days we had a lot of small factories. Liberia had all
Hmm.
kinds of factories. We had
Yeah.
matches, rubber, slippers, made chairs, cement, nails. We made there were a lot of factories at one time in Liberia.
I heard now without trying to go on a tangent. I heard that there was I think one of the company was traded on the U.S. stock market here. Yeah, how accurate is that?
Yeah. In fact, club beer,
Yeah.
Liberian club beer, used to be shipped to America because it was so fresh.
Wow.
Yes. So you see, we've come a long way.
Yeah.
And today, we are allowing um, the Chinese to
Hmm.
fish in our waters. The In Ellen administration, she signed a agreement with the Chinese government, which was ratified by the Liberian legislature, so they could fish in our waters. I don't know what the benefit we're getting from that.
Hmm. Hmm.
Where is this money going? In fact, the EU president was outraged.
Wow.
Um,
Be-
outraged
because
because
of
we
that
allowed.
concession. Yeah.
Yes, they couldn't believe we would do something like that. Why would you give the Chinese permission just to take all your fish from in your continental shelf? And we don't see fish on the market. We don't see them. We don't see Liberians being employed. Nothing.
Yeah.
What did we gain from this? But you can't blame and Shelly administration, because also the Senate that's supposed to be looking after our interests, they ratified it.
Hmm. Wow. See, I didn't. I know I have a buddy who is very heavy in the stuff from Norway, and he even
Mhm.
did a kind of a great report in terms of how the country can benefit from the fishery industry. But I actually know several people that have attempted to work with the government, but there's been, like as it was highlighted in the report, it's been just no avail. So that, as it was highlighted in the report, there is, the potential is there, but nobody is capitalizing on it. Not the government's not capitalizing on it, and that, huge potential is just there to be, uh, you know, yet to be explored. So that's one of the things they highlighted in there as well. Um, so from that perspective, what do you think this does this report signal uh, invitation of investors despite the challenges? Do you think the U.S. state government is trying to invite investors in the country to invest despite
Oh, the,
some of the
the
challenges?
the report tells me it's plain as day.
Okay.
If you remove the corruption
Yeah.
from in a way,
Yeah.
they will come tomorrow.
Yeah.
The report, that's all they said. They just said the problem is, people not giving Liberia a chance to grow and
Yeah.
giving Liberia a chance for investors to come.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
That's the problem. You move that problem from there,
Hmm.
where investors can come, and no bribing
Hmm.
or no blocking them until Liberia will expand. You know, it's so hurtful that we're holding ourselves back.
Yeah, and they've alluded to that as well. Not alluded. It was stated in that you know that certain it's hard to even get access to certain government officials without them asking you for bribes, and that is because investors talk to each other. If you go trying to invest in Liberia and you encounter something like that, somebody that's trying to invest, they will probably get wind of you and they will call you to ask you, what was your experience? And you will, from somebody who you will, you will most likely tell them what you experienced, and that is actually turning away people, which is exactly what you said. If we are able to eliminate that aspect of the corruption. I mean, I'm not saying that it won't be corruption, but the word that they use is that it is pervasive. If we were able to remove pervasive corruption and give investors access to come into that country and invest in Liberia, there will be a lot of opportunities. Excuse me.
Yes, a lot of opportunities. Just we need just for the leadership to identify these places that blocking, you know, investment and remove those blockage. That's all it requires. It's not hard to do because it just requires the will to do it. That's all.
So another area of the report that I highlighted here is this chart over here that's taken directly from the report. They talk about the corruption perception index. We are 146 out of 180 countries. They also look
Mhm.
at the global innovation index. We have none, and I don't blame them for giving us none. That there's not no innovation taking place in Liberia. They look at the FDI in Liberia, foreign direct investment in Liberia. I think that actually includes um, remittances as well, right? Which is at 525 right now. And again, as I said earlier, the GDP per capita, um, it's what is it, 630 right now. Um, However, there are area as I like to say, there are upside to any into
Mhm.
this report. That I think the government can look at. Um, and that leads us to these places. So in the report they've identified these areas as sectors that if you invest in them, you can get incentives. The government gives you different form of incentives uh, that will help you, scale your investment. You know,
Mhm.
and they've identified tourism, manufacturing, energy, hospital and medicals, housing, transportation, information technology, and banking, right? And I think at the bottom there's agriculture and agriculture processing. So, um, which area of the report, which part of the report did you find troubling? And I know you alluded to that. And which area did you think were a good area in terms of promoting a country?
Coming from a tech background,
Yeah.
um, I, I know that we definitely need um, to digitize our economy. The
Hmm.
whole government, they wanted to do it, but again, what gets in the way of what gets in the way all the time is clientelism. Clientelism. They want to pick who does what instead of just looking for the best to go do it.
Hmm. Hmm.
I was part of a couple of meetings with them, but they're always trying to pick certain people, and
Hmm.
and that way they're doing it doesn't seem to work because they're not either capable, they're not professional,
Yeah.
or yeah. So we definitely need better technology and energy. Okay, I worked for LEC before the war. That's in
Mhm.
fact I was captured during the war. Energy is a key area. Those things like energy, things like water, things like the technology. Those are the building blocks for the economy. So when you
Yeah.
don't have those, you don't have adequate uh, uh, um, of those things, the economy hard to grow.
Yeah.
It's very difficult, you know. And that's also those are the things we have to put in place. In fact, some investors, when they want to invest in a country, they look at the availability of certain facilities like
Yeah.
water, like and electricity. And if they find that it's not available, they may not come. So those are the things we definitely have to put in place if
Yeah.
we're going to go anywhere. Mhm.
No, I do agree with you, especially on the information technology or the internet access part and the energy. Especially in the digital age that we live in now, you cannot run any
Mhm.
company without access to energy, without internet. So I do agree, and as I like to say, this is one of the biggest, like I think as you said it earlier too, is one of the biggest reason why we are the way we are. We have the cable, underground cable, undersea cable line on the seashore there, but there's no one who has been able to develop it. Now, I know it's capital intensive. Either the government can take on that initiative, or again, if the corruption wasn't that pervasive, somebody would have made, will be able to put up the capital to develop it and bring access of internet to everybody in our country. Um, I was on another show earlier, not earlier, sometime 2 weeks, about a week ago. There's a guy who is leveraging satellite internet to bring internet access to any part of Liberia right now. So uh,
Mhm.
there's hopefully he's able to scale that to a larger scale to bring. He said, what they're trying to do, like you'll be able to be anywhere on the road, on the streets in Liberia, and able to tap into the network, the Wi-Fi, like a street Wi-Fi, and be able to access the internet. They have private. Uh, right now is how do you call it, B2B, so they're only dealing with businesses. They haven't transitioned to the B2C yet, to consumer yet, but they said that is in the pipeline, and it will be cheaper compared to what's available on the market, what's going right now on the market. So that is a good news. But in terms of a broader scale, something that the government can use, that is, like we have the hard infrastructure for access to internet, we have the cable there. And I think what I've heard is that someone has, even put up uh, some kind of an agreement to Google, and I think Google was trying to develop the internet infrastructure in Liberia, but that is still sitting, and nobody has been able to do anything to it. Um,
Well,
but
I was just
yeah.
there. They've got fiber running from along the Rabafi Highway now.
Mhm.
They were still stringing it up when I was there.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I forgot the name of the country of the company. So there's some small development going, but again, like I said, these guys who putting it up,
Mhm.
and that's my area. I build networks like fiber
Mhm.
networks and design and build
Mhm.
them. So I was curious.
Ah.
Yes, so I was curious to who was doing it, and again, the Liberians are not involved. I met the young man who's doing it. He's from Ghana. He was the one who was putting it in. Everybody, I mean, we're not even trying to train our young people to take over.
Mhm.
You know, I don't know when we will ever be ready. We have to get our youth prepared to run the country, and the only way to do it is to get them involved. You know, get them involved now in these projects, so that later on they'll be able to do it.
Yeah.
Even when they brought that undersea cable to Monrovia, one of the contributors was Indiana University. They wanted to bring it to LU. Okay,
Mm.
so they paid for it, part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Up to now, they don't have the fiber optics to LU. And my answer is why. And I talked to top people, and they say, well, we told LU to come do it. I said, how will you tell LU to come do it? You have to build it. You are the Liberia Telecommunication Company. You build a line there. And it's not difficult. This is something I used to do for Common. It's not that very difficult, but they're not giving anybody a chance to do it. Even if you, so the people who are in charge don't know what to do. So we still going around and around in circles. So like you were saying, it's there, but nobody doing nothing with it. Nobody.
So you talked about that we should bring the young people in these kind of sectors, but one of the report highlighted that we lack human capital development. And also, if you look in Liberia, most of the young people, they gravitate towards politics, right?
Yeah.
So how would you kind of convince them to look at these areas? Now, don't get me wrong, there's an emerging group of young Liberians that are, like, when I mean, they're coders, hard coders. They can design website, like they can design, they're very hard tech coders in our country. There's a group of emerging, but it's just a fraction of them, right? But the majority of the other guys, everybody goes towards politics. So how do you figure we, pull them away from that direction and say, hey, this other area as well?
That's a great question. Why are they interested in okay, let's look at the reason why. The reason why is they think they can get, it's lucrative, that they can enrich themselves.
Yeah.
That is one of the reasons.
Mm-hmm.
The second reason might be that there are not enough other opportunities, right, for them to see. If there were opportunities where they know they could be, gainfully employed somewhere in some industry, they might go there. So the only thing they're looking at is this politics and to work for the government, because they don't see other opportunities.
Yeah.
And that is tragic, because Liberia has all those resources, but all we want to do is go to government to enrich ourselves. And that's not going to get Liberia where it needs to go.
Agree. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. So this is pretty much done. What is it? So the last question on this topic is, what do you think, how do you think the government of Liberia should view this report? Like, if you were in the government, what would you take away from this? Or how would you view it? What would your sentiment be about this report?
Well, this is they highlighted these different areas because they are very important for the advancement of the country. That is why they highlighted it. So what I would do, I'd pick out 2, 3, because some of them are interrelated. Sometimes you cannot just develop one thing. It will not be as impactful unless it is developed with something else. For instance, transportation, we're talking about roads, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Information technology, you
Yep.
need electricity, right?
Yep.
You know, banking and financing, what do you need? You need to build a trust
Yep.
in the system.
In the system. Yep.
So I would focus on some crucial ones and start building on those. And after the first 5 years, like I pick up energy, I pick up transportation, I pick up technology. I build on those, and because they can also bring me back money. You see, when you have limited resources, you have to you have to develop something that will bring money revenue back to you, so
Yep.
that you can invest in other areas. So for me, I will pick those areas that will have to quick return on investment,
Mm-hmm.
so that I can invest in other things as well.
Yeah. Okay. No, I do agree. And for me, as I said, it, the answer to that, I think you've already answered this question earlier. That if I were someone in the government reading this, the only takeaway that I would take away from this is hey, this is a good report. However, what we need to do to
Mm-hmm.
make this an even better report is that we can mitigate the challenges with corruption, the pervasive corruption that once we can, mitigate, some of the challenges that corruption imposes upon the country. This report is literally a marketing tool that we can use to invite investors. That is, when somebody read it, without that corruption piece, we invite them to come to the country. So if I was someone in the government, that's how I will look at this. That, hey, this is a great report. I'm not, you know, going to throw a fit, but instead look at ways to reduce the level of corruption we have within the government. Because in as much that it was put out to the State Department, people like you, myself, and others within the diaspora are reading this. you know I don't know, like I said, this is my first time even knowing about these areas of incentives that, if you do invest in them, the government can give you incentives. So it's a great tool to leverage. But I think the biggest thing is to look at it as, a marketing tool that, you know, can be used for, you know, like we should they should look at it as a great report instead of, you know, I haven't so far I have not seen any reaction to the report. So maybe they're looking at it the way I'm looking at it, that this is a great report, despite the challenges that was highlighted in it. So for me, that's how I would look at it if I were them. But I think overall, this is um, you know, something like you, myself, and everybody else can read. It's out there.
Yeah.
If you want the link, I can share the link with you. Hopefully, I will drop that in the comment section so you can go take a look at it. It will give you a lot of insight in terms of, you know, everything about the government and the private sector and what is happening in those areas. So you can nitpick and see where you can fit yourself in. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. All right. So let me take this down. One second here. So the next thing we're going to talk about is the government of Liberia uh, carbon deal or carbon credit memorandum of understanding, um, that you know they are trying to sign with the uh, I think it's called. Hopefully, I'm pronouncing this right. Emirati, um, uh, out of I think out of Dubai. These guys are out of Dubai, and the company is called Blue Carbon. All right, Blue Carbon is currently present in Zambia and Tanzania. Um, so I think they just looking to strike a deal with the government of Liberia for 30 years for 1 million hectares of land, which is from the report, and I don't, that is unverified from the report, is equivalent to 10% of the land area in Liberia. That is very huge. That is huge.
Yeah, 1
But
million hectares, not 1 million acres.
no, it's hectares.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's a lot.
Yeah. So I initially when I saw it, I said 1 million acres. That's nothing. That should be, but it's hectares. That's I don't want to even I don't even know the difference, to be honest with you. So you're probably know more about that. But supposedly that is equivalent to 10% of um, the land area in Liberia. That is massive for 30 years. So as we look to get into that, the question is, why is the government of Liberia doing that, right? Um,
Hmm. Very
but
good.
before we jump into that, we want to take a backdrop in terms of understanding uh, this question, right? What is climate change? This is climate change, if it is becoming the biggest, hopefully, let me get to this. So let me give you a good backdrop here. 1 second. Um, 1 minute. Voila. Okay. So climate change has become one of the biggest challenges, not just in Liberia, but around the world. Now, Africa's not so much because we're not fully developed, industrialized continent. So our impact to climate change, our contribution to the global greenhouse gas is limited compared, I think it's 3% or 4%, right? The last time I checked, which was probably 3 months ago, right? It's 4% compared to the rest of the world. And that is because we do not have a lot of, you know, industrial facilities. We still have most of our land that is arable land, you know. So we haven't damaged cause, like we don't have the many planes and ships and all of these things that pollute the global that cause greenhouse gas in the world compared to the Western world. However, just because we don't contribute to that, that does not mean we don't feel the impact. We do feel the impact, and if you've been following, there's been, the Sahara Desert. There's been a lot of drought in certain countries there. If you perfect case example in Liberia, there's massive. Yes, we do have rain, but there's been massive floods every time it rains. It floods sometimes. There's an erosion within the sea shores, if you can look at that, right? Um,
Mhm.
so climate change, this whole, you know, is caused by the Earth, warming up, right? And so the first United Nations framework convention for climate change, or UNFCCC, or they call it COP, United Nations uh, Commission on Climate Change, right? It initially started in 1992 at the Earth Summit in Brazil. Um, then again, they met in '97 in Kyoto, Tokyo, for the first, you know, commitment to reduce, and that's when they had the first commitment to reduce the greenhouse gas emission. Uh, then I think what the goal is to meet every 5 years to check in with the various countries to see what they've been doing to fight climate change. But because of what has been happening, it is now being done every year. I think since 2016, right? So 2015, uh, they committed to a collective. When I mean committed, globally, the country is committed to a global temperature to reduce global temperatures to 1.5 degrees Celsius. 2016, they met in Marrakesh. I think it's Marrakesh, that's Morocco, um, on a high level with a high level impact, climate champions, to mobilize non-partisan stakeholders. That means The other developing countries that weren't involved, they mobilized them to get involved. COP26 happened in 2021 in Glasgow. There was a lot of commitment that was done there. I think they committed 100 billion to developing countries. 83 billion of that has been raised. COP27 just happened. I forgot what country. At that, the Sheikh, if I'm pronouncing this right, correct me. It's called Sharm El Sheikh Elevation, elevated the concern for developing country. This is where they raise concern for developing country. That we are raising all of this money. What are we going to do for the developing countries, right? And we can go through the numbers that were raised, the allocation, and COP28 is coming up, and that is going to be held in UAE. And you should take a backdrop on that because that's out of the country that signed that deal with Liberia, right? So these are the costs to climate change, the climate impact. So by 2030, if we do not reduce the global temperature to 1.5 degrees Celsius, and if it reaches 3.5, we're going to be underfunded by 580 billion, right? So far, they've raised 290 billion, still another 290 to go. By 2030, by 2050, the cost of impact to climate change is going to be over almost $2 trillion, right? And the impact we're seeing is severe flood, heat waves. 40% of the world land is now degraded, and more droughts and frequent heat wave. One is happening in Hawaii right now, where I think over 1,000 people are reported dead. So those are the impact. So as somebody just joined us, I think it's Alex. Is that you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So, why are you going to party very late? Join a party very late. So,
What continue, don't mommy ba?
Okay. Okay. So let's go back here. So the first question is, first we need to understand what is carbon credit. So carbon credit, right? It is from basic definition is a tradable permit, right, or certificate that represent a right to emit certain level of carbon monoxide or greenhouse gas, if you want to call it that, into the atmosphere, right? So let me move to the next slide so it'll help you break it down to make you understand what this is and why the blue carbon actually signed that deal. So according to the Paris Agreement on Climate Change, each company moving forward, country, will now be allocated a certain level of greenhouse gas that they can emit into the air, right? Now, if you are able to emit less because of, initiative that you've taken, what you can do because of that allocation they give you, if you don't meet it, whatever's left, you can sell it, right? You can sell that credit to other countries. That's exactly what Liberian is capitalizing on, because we don't put out too much greenhouse gas or carbon monoxide, if you want to call it that. What we're now looking to do, because of the forest, we have probably one of the biggest forests in West Africa. We're looking to sell those credits to the Kuwaitis. I mean, not Kuwaitis, that company in Dubai, to allow them to do that. So we trade our carbon credit to them for money, and that is going to be done for 30 years. So in a nutshell, that is how the carbon credit works. Matter of fact, there's a lot of regulation that's going to come around it. And I think it's going to be exploited if we're not regulated. And the reason why I say that is because if you are able to sell carbon credit, Jimmy, what you can do, you will be able to leverage it, right? Do as much as you can to now produce a lot, and whatever's left, because you allocate a certain amount, you will sell that amount to whatever, whatever country or company that may need it, right? So from a nutshell, that is what carbon credit is, you know. Um, but what I want to focus on is, what do you guys think this deal is for Liberia? Is it the right thing to do, or from your, I don't know if you're able to read the report, what do you think this deal represents for Liberia? And do you think this is something the government should go forward with?
Okay, but first of all, you got to tie the carbon credit thing with the land. Why?
Right.
We're talking about 1 million hectares.
Yep.
By the way, 1 hectare is about 2.5 acres. Okay.
There you go.
Okay. So, what are they doing? Is it that they say we cannot deforest? Right now we have a problem in the whole world with the production of carbon dioxide. Too much carbon dioxide is being produced because of manufacturing, because of motor vehicles and all of that. And so it's causing a hole in the ozone layer, and eventually the planet is getting warmer. Another thing is contributing to the warming and global warming is the deforestation of our wetlands. The Amazon, the Congo, and the forest in Indonesia. Those are the major wetlands that affect the entire world. And as we keep on cutting down the trees, and producing more and more carbon monoxide, the planet is just warming up. So they got together to say, okay, we have to be responsible.
Yep.
If you're going to produce all this carbon monoxide or dioxide, then you have to do something to counter it.
Perfect. Yep.
Okay? You have to do something to counter it. And one of the things you can do to counter it is investing in rainforests.
Yep.
Okay? But if we continue doing this at this rate, we'll burn our up. So this is what led to the UAE, right, making this offer to Liberia, because we still, as you know, we have surplus rain, and that is because we still have a pretty good forest.
Yeah.
Pretty good forest area. And that forest area they are pushing us to preserve it. Yep. Now, I didn't see enough of this arrangement to know what they will do, because that area that they are promising to reserve, some tribes and things own that land. As far as they're concerned, that's their land.
That's their land. Yeah.
So I think what the government will have to do is to educate Liberians on what are they doing and why they need to do it, so they can come to an understanding, instead of just promising something that, without telling the people what they're doing. I think they have to educate the people before, inking that deal. It's only fair, that they do that. And maybe that's not even the best deal they're getting. I don't know how much they're offering for that. They may be getting, they could get more. So, without knowing the details, I'm saying that the government should tread carefully. What's your take, Alex?
Alex.
Yes, sir.
Are you still with us? Yeah. What is your? Have you read the report on this, the MOU to give 1 million hectare of land to not Saudi Arabia, UAE for 30 years? Have you read that? Currently, there's an MOU for carbon credit for the government Liberia to sell carbon credit to that company out of UAE, called Blue Carbon, for 30 years.
I think Jimmy captured it more. The essence of the whole thing, and looking at everything that's happening in the world, Liberia is also positioned to tap into that.
Mhm.
The only thing is the aspect of it that we have to look at properly and make sure that we get the best benefit out of it, as opposed to the same situation we're having with Firestone and keep changing things here and there every now and then, even with metallicity and stuff like that. But this is a global phenomenon. I think, we're positioned to tap into because of the heavy rain we have, the rainforest and things like that.
Mhm. But I think what Jimmy, I just wanted to add to what Jimmy was saying, right? So it's not just about, you know, I think me too. I would like to see the structure of that agreement. What are they going to do with all that land? You know, because as you guys are aware, it's, if it's something that they're going to do anything with, eventually, with all the concessions we have, whether the oil and mining and the iron ore, our land is being depleted slowly as we see it, and to give away another 10% for anything of that magnitude to take place on it, that's another, eventually, it's consequences we have to deal with. Somebody has to do something on that land eventually. So I would like to see the structure on that, in terms of the structure of that transaction. Um, but for me, I think there's also, I think this is a spell kind of desperation for this 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 government. And the reason why I say that, because and this is from, inside information that I know by sitting on our company's climate change. There's a lot of resources out there, as I like to say. There's a whole lot. Whether they're aware of it, that's a different story, that is yet to be known. I don't know how much they're getting for that agreement, but there's already resources out there. There's prospectively, the IMF is trying to develop 150 billion-dollar annually, right, to developing countries to fight climate change. That's something we can tap into. 160 billion with the developing country, we can leverage that and get as much money. That's annually we can get, if we do what we need to do, we have the right people at the table, we can get as much out of that, right? There's also 100 billion that was pledged, I think, at the COP27 to developing countries. 83 billion of that has been raised. There's another 33.2 billion-dollar coming from MDBs, multilateral development banks, like the World Banks and the IMFs and the other multilateral development bank. Um, there's I left out some of these things. I think Egypt, and those Northern African countries have developed their own fund. I think it was $20 billion to fight climate change that have to do with water preservation. South Africa has its own as well. So there's a lot of resources out there to just go throw yourself out there and just go give 100 million uh, hectares of land. I don't know how much they're getting from it. That is yet to be seen. So I think there's a lot of resources out there to tap into. Like, if we exhaust these things, explore these resources, exhaust them, if we don't have anything, you know, great come from it, then we can say, okay, now let's look outside to other private companies that are looking to buy carbon credit. We can sell carbon credit too, because we have that advantage. So for me,
So,
I think this
so
is,
Gabriel,
yeah, go
Gabriel,
ahead.
based on what you say, let me play a devil's advocate and ask the question. So, all these different multinationals, and there are all this worldwide fight against climate change.
Hmm.
Which big countries like the U.S. and stuff like that are leading, and then there's a policy-driven thing. So the devil advocate question is, and I need to understand that, why is the government going with a private company or Saudi Arabia? Why is that? Do you understand why?
And that's that. As I said, I think what I said was I think they're operating from a desperation standpoint. And again, the reason why I said that is I don't want to be too harsh on them. We currently have a budget recast where we don't have enough because we did that the last year and we're doing that this year. I think probably the year before that as well. I mean, we have efficiencies in a way of raising money to even fund our own government, which is, as you can look at the budget, 110 million of it comes from external sources. We bet that means we besides that we barely have enough to do the things we need to do. This government doesn't have the clout like the previous government to go to become the international development darling where you can just go and just clap and then they give you whatever you need. We don't have that. So for them, I think this is another way of looking for extra resources, you know what I mean, money to continue to fund these efficiencies within the government. And I think that's where they're going from. Because as I said, even though there are 650 billion is out, it is, still being talked about. It hasn't been, there hasn't been decision yet as to whether that will be done annually, and all these other resources. And even if that were out there, so you have to look at it this way from their standpoint too. Jimmy talked about this earlier. Whether they have that, if the technical people that are able to go and speak the language to be able to get that kind of funds, that's also remain to be debated. So if you don't know that, you go the easy way out, which is, hey, you give up much to get what you want. So I think for me, that's the standpoint. I think they are looking at this thing, which is absolutely wrong, because you're not in any desperation to 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 go after these guys. You're not in. It's not like to say the sea is actually eroding the shores of Monrovia and is impacting you economically that you can function as a country. So you have to do something instantaneously that will give you money to earmark that money to climate change initiative. Nobody even know what they're going to do with this money. So for me, I think that's they're operating from a place of desperation because of the if inefficiencies within the the government of raising domestic tax revenue. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
That there's definitely there are many questions come to mind. I agree with you there, Gabriel. You know, that's a lot of 10% of your whole country. That's a
That's a
lot,
lot. That's a lot. That's a huge.
and
Right.
we need to see what the details are. You
Yeah.
know, now this 10% when they give it, is it just going to sit down and nothing, nobody touch it, or can they do things with it? You know, all these things come come in question. You know, um, and I like what you said. For some reason or not, we don't engage our Liberian experts. I see a lot of our decisions, a lot of our projects, Liberian experts are not involved,
Hmm.
and that is scary because it's our experts who can protect us. We don't if we do depending on other people to tell us what is good for us, we're in dire straits.
Yeah.
We have to we have to get back to employing our own experts. Whatever this trend I see that they're keeping the knowledgeable people out of the decision making. You don't even have them feeding you information. I think we're on a bad road. It's a bad road, and this is one of the times you need your own experts to evaluate whether this deal is good or not. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I do agree with you, and I think that is not from that perspective. I don't think that is something that is just with this government. It is with every administration that has come. They have a way of pushing aside the people who have the expertise and who have expertise. They're efficient. They're by the book. They want to do things certain way because they know the consequences. So usually people go into that and they get frustrated and they leave. So and this government, they just they're very. I don't know. I don't. And again, please correct me here if I'm wrong. I don't know if they even have the expertise of people that have climate change and on that thing, and to even understand what kind of ball they're playing right now in terms of giving out 10% of your land for carbon credit. Carbon credit is not. It's just something that is just started being developed. There's no even policy. I would say this to you: the United States of America does not even have a solidified policy on climate change, let alone a country like ours. Like in terms of directives, they don't. There are countries in like the UK, they have certain things. Right now, the US government is looking to private companies to lead that charge. Even though they have the certain bit of it in there with the Inflation Reduction Act, but in terms of a actual policy on climate change, there's none. So I don't even think we understand that. Whether we even have policy on that in terms of what it means and how other countries are going about this. We just, hey, this has become available. You can sell carbon credit because you have arable land. We just jump right in the middle and trying to take advantage of that. And it's going to backfire just like with everything else. It's going to backfire later on. So um, I will leave it on that. Yeah. Alex, any more comments or question? I think
No, not much. Not much.
I think I messed up today again. I don't think I shared this. Was it on Facebook Live? Because I don't see any questions here. Any comments here? Actually, there's two comments here. We can just jump into that and then we wrap this thing up. So this one is actually from Darlink. I don't know if that's this guy's real name or whatever his name is. So Darling, if you're watching, tell us what if that is a real name or he said which planet oh man. I mean, first of all, you spelled my name wrong, so I gotta fight a
Comment,
pick with you on that.
comment, do that thing. Yeah, pay attention to the back. Comment, moment.
He said, which planet Jimmy and Carter live on? The corruption that the State Department report is talking about is with the executive branch of government, specifically the office of the president. So I think he's referring to the U.S. State Department report, and I think we said something that if the government can just remove corruption, they can mitigate corruption, then the report itself, everything else highlighted in the report is good. It's things that really champion the investment climate in the country. But he said, hey, the corruption is, which I agree with him. He said the corruption is at the executive level. Hence why I think they mentioned CFAS, the former, what is it, Solicitor General, and McGill in that report as well as corrupt individual. So um, I, you're right. It is with the executive branch. But again, what we were saying, we're not saying there's no corruption. We're saying if they can mitigate that, they can, even at the presidential level, if they can see that and recognize that and correct that, the rest of the report is pretty much an invitation for investors to come into the country and invest based on what what they highlighted in there. Yeah. Um, Jimmy, any reaction to this?
Yeah. He says, "What planet we on?"
Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't. I mean, the comment was corruption. All right, so we know where the corruption is, where it begins. Okay, you have to be an authority and to do it. So you have to be part of the bureaucracy to do it. So we know where it's coming from. But
Yeah.
the what we want to point out that this little bit that some people get, we are losing the lion's share because our people will benefit so much more for instance, if two investors want to come in the country, one wants to invest $100 million in growing ground pea. The other one won't come in the country. The man only wants to mine your minerals. That's all they want to do. They give you, one man gives you people, gives the official $1 million. The other one said, no, I come and invest in your country. I'm not going to give you anything. If you want me to come, fine. So you tell a man who won't invest in agriculture to go away because he's not giving you nothing. And you're taking the $1 million from that person who wants to come in your country. Not only do they want to mine your mineral, they will start taking all kinds of things from you. Like right now, the Chinese are doing, I hear they're even into sand business. All the equipment they have there is not only for sand, it's for minerals and diamonds. Do we know what they're taking? So you see how we lose when these things go on? We lose triple, quadruple, because that little thing you give that man, they are taking the lion's share away from us. And that is the same thing that we were talking about the fish. How much money did we get for that, for the Chinese fishing on our continental coast? What is the profit? What is the gain we're getting from there? And you know, the Chinese, if they're willing to do that, they're profiting enormously because we have a lot of fish out there, and we don't even know what they're taking. We don't have ways of monitoring it. Nothing. The selfishness that we find our leadership is involved in is at a level that is unbelievable, you know. And it's not this administration. It's talking about the last administration as well, you know. And we slowly, and we're not going anywhere, you know. I mean, this is monolithic, the kind of deals that they cross and the amount of how much we lose. It should be a crime, and it should be stopped.
Gabriel.
Yeah.
I wasn't here earlier, but I think what Dalek is talking about, or Dalek Wildwood is talking about, is when he mean which planet Jimmy and Carter live on. I don't think he meant it in a negative way.
No, I didn't take it as a negative. No.
So yeah, I know. So you were saying from your explanation, you were saying that if X, then Y will happen, right? If they can control corruption, then this will not be a problem. But then the man said, well, you get a fish to the cat, then you expect a cat to the fish to survive, right? So that's what he's saying, that the problem is coming from the head. How do you expect the head to ensure that there will not be that issue of corruption or that? So you're coming from different planet. If you're hoping that thing, if you're hoping that way.
Hey, there's Mars. We're exploring Mars right now, so I might be speaking from that perspective. Dali, thank you for your comment. We appreciate it. And I think he made another one here. He said 9 people are reported dead with several. Okay, so this was the comment I made about the wildfire in, I think, Hawaii right now. I may have misspoke about the number, so he's correcting that as well.
Yeah, the Maui Island in Hawaii there.
Yeah. This is Rabba Sa. Yeah, Rabba, where are you watching from? And oh man, this guy is on us again. He said that's his legal name. Okay, so I was wondering whether that is his legal name. He said that is his legal name. I was Darling Boy.
You say little than
yeah, this guy is crazy. I mean, you're hilarious, man. Yeah, man. Why you took the question for you? Why did you take the boy from there? Yeah. You want to be boy? I know Liberian folk can give people all kinds of names, man. I don't even know if he's Liberian. So anyway, that's the
Yeah, darling. Yeah, darling boy. Darling boy is a Liberian
Dalin.
name.
I guess it is,
It's
right?
it's like a plain name. So if you yeah, darling boy, yeah, it's a plain name. It's a
So
yard
you
name,
took
or
the
whatever
boy
we
from
call it.
there. Yeah.
No, but he moved the boy now. I think it's darling boy.
Dalin
So
boy.
he left. He made it darling with a
Yeah.
K.
Yeah. And then yeah. Okay. That's very smart. You know, imagine going to somebody and saying, "Hey, what's your name? My name is Dalin boy." Anyways, anyway, that's it for the comments. We didn't have a lot today. I let people are not feeling it's not something they're interested in.
When people on
But
camping right now,
yeah, exactly.
I think
Everybody, yeah,
a political season right now.
yeah. I think what is it? It opened on the 5th, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Last week Saturday.
Does it go to the end of the election, or is it a cutoff period?
Yeah, I think that's a day before the election, no campaigning. A day or two before the election, no campaigning.
Ah, okay.
So most likely the election is on. If it's on a Tuesday, the last day for campaigning will be on maybe Sunday.
Why they can't do election on weekends on
Yeah,
Saturday?
the election is on Tuesday.
Why
It's
everybody?
by law. That is law. It's by law.
Yeah, they need to change that law.
I think every something Tuesday or so, every second Tuesday, something like that.
Okay.
In the month of October. So campaign. I think most likely the last day of campaign will be on the 8th.
Mhm.
Then you rest on the 9th, and people go to the poll on the 10th.
Mhm.
Yep.
And then the result come out maybe a week later, depending
Yeah,
on.
the exit poll can start coming out. The radio stations can start announcing it
Yeah.
maybe a day after, 2 days after, because the way it works, they put every polling center, they count the result, they tally on a sheet,
Mhm.
the representatives sign it, the representative for the party sign it, the person that sign it, I think the legit magistrates, and then they put it up. They have copies.
So
And they
that is
put it
done by
up.
the NEC before any radio station can get a copy of it, right?
No, the NEC gives the official result.
Okay.
Well, what you call exit poll in America,
Yeah.
yeah, right after the voting, as the
Yeah.
center closes, they
Yeah.
count the vote right there.
Mhm.
So they have the sheet, the tally sheet.
Mhm.
They count all the vote there and then before they
Mhm.
close that place. Then they
Okay.
record it. Gabriel Carter, 10 vote. Eastman, 20 vote. Coffee, of course, I will win all of you, so I get 2,000 votes. So 2,000 votes.
It's okay. It's okay.
Then we sign on it. Then the people that present, they sign on it. Then they take the sheet and put the copy and stick it on the wall.
Okay.
Then everybody go now. The press people, everybody go in. Even the party people go and take the picture of that.
Okay.
That's why they use now to send to the radio station, and even the parties that got their own centers, they build their own software to tally their votes. They start sending, they start texting it. Yeah. Then they start now. Then how come they say okay? But then all that official result now will go. The election magistrate will sign it. They'll send all the paperwork.
Right.
To Morovia, they will ship the ballot boxes. The people will do the election commission will do its own tally. Then it starts to announce. Maybe every other day or every 3 days they will announce at the end of the percentage of vote counted so far is 50% with this result. Yeah. At that point now you start knowing who will win. That's when focus on our brewer can predict that so and so person will be the winner. And when it comes back, CNN can say CNN predict that so and so person. It's from the exit polls.
Okay, so now that makes sense. Okay,
Mhm.
see, I didn't. All right, so I just learned something about the Liberian election. Okay, wow. But I mean, besides that, I will hope that they would. If they do the same thing here in the United States, they do election on Tuesdays. I don't know why. I will hope they would do it on weekends when everybody's home too. You don't have that challenge to be, hey, I have to leave work early to go vote. But in Liberia, there's not many people that work, so
Yeah, during the
it
campaign,
doesn't make difference.
during the campaign time, I said no good work.
There
I
you
will
go.
say no good work.
Mm.
Oh yeah,
All right.
no good
All
way.
right. So, oh man, this guy, he said, Jimmy and Gabriel, trust me, I will find your play name before next Saturday. Good luck. Good luck.
Gabriel,
Yeah.
Gabriel, you look like Chuchu Ball.
No, 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 no. I'm far from that. I'm not even going to say it because the guy, I know he's listening right now. Will he say, I got it. Yeah. But anyways, do you guys have any more? I know we talked a lot here, and Alex, thank you for educating us on the election process in Liberia. Um, Hopefully, these guys that were able to learn something as I was able to as well. So, one last question on that. So, what if a radio station or a platform like ours calls an election prematurely? Is there any consequences for that?
No, but it's not official.
Mhm. But it is not. But what if they do
It's
that
not official.
and is
It has
no?
happened. It's happened in
Yeah.
previous election where party would think that they won, but at the end of the day, things have happened, and the the election commission will issue a statement against that, and that the election commission is the only place to issue official result.
Okay.
You can only challenge the election commission result
Yeah.
based on your tally sheet, based on everything else.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right, gentlemen. I think we have exhausted our time
Okay.
almost. Do you guys have anything else to add to that? What are the regarding this U.S. State Department report or the
Well,
prospective
I would
climate
just say
change?
this: as
Uh-huh.
the report says, we have problem with corruption. So
Hmm.
vote wisely, so
Hmm.
that you don't vote people in who will be corrupt.
Hmm.
You know, that's all you can do.
Hmm.
That's what I'd say.
Alex.
Yeah, that's it. Vote wisely so that you don't we don't have a problem in the country. Vote wisely. That's all.
Yeah. 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 So for me, I think, as I said, I think I keep saying is the report itself. Um, that is something that if I were in the National Investment Commission or the Ministry of Commerce, is something I would have taken from there and used, because it has a lot of highlighted upside to it. Besides, as you guys keep saying, the corruption at the helm of the government. There's a lot of things in there that they highlighted. And for me, I think the first question we asked was the sentiment behind that report. I think the US government put out that report in a way as an invitation to investors, to see, hey, this is a country you can invest in, but you know, besides that, these are the things that you should look out for. So I think that report is a great report, and I hope the government of Liberia can look at it that way, or to see it that way, or they can leverage it to kind of do some kind of marketing around it, to you know say, hey, this is what the U.S. State Department put out. Um, on the prospective blue carbon LLC agreement with the government of Liberia, I think that MOU is an act of desperation. There's a lot of resources out there that they can tap into. As I said, you just have to have the expert in our area in climate change. If you have people in climate change that can look into these areas, as I said, as the IMF, I listed, we highlighted some of the IMF There's the 650 billion. There's the 83 billion dollar that's already there for developing country. The Bill and Melinda Gates has a 1.5 billion dollar for countries that want to develop food security. There's also another 150 billion dollar facility by I think the World Bank. I highlighted there's I think $20 billion being developed by Egypt and some other countries in the north. South Africa has theirs as well. And so there's lots of resources out there. I'm not sure why you guys are not tapping into that, but you're going into this deal that is going to usher in auction pretty much 100, 1 million hectare of, land to a company that you barely know for how much, nobody knows. So reassess your options, as I said, and I will leave it on that note. That's my take on that. Do you guys have any more closing comments before we wrap up? Nope. And ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, as we always like to say, we come here, we give our opinions. We, hope you took away something from it, learn from it as we were able to. But regardless of that, as we always like to say, we're all Liberians, and we hope that remains in the back of your head. And without further ado, we will leave you with that song that says we're all Liberians. And see you next Saturday on the same place, same time. And we look forward to seeing you next Saturday. Adios. If I can find this song.
We all Liberians.